Welcome to the WIS Social Podcast, the show that brings you conversations with folks who get social media. This podcast is sponsored by the National Institute for Social Media. Now, here's your host, Chris Barrows.
And welcome, everyone, to a live edition of the WIS Social Podcast. So excited to be here doing this. I want to thank everyone for some flexibility on the time today. I was joking before we started that it's a true measure of a social media manager to be flexible. So it is appropriate in that way. But I do want to welcome everyone to a live version of the WIS Social Podcast, which has been back. And a big thanks to the National Institute for Social Media for allowing that to happen. It would not be here without you, Jen. And with that, Jen, I want to kind of bring you on, talk a little bit about what we're doing here today, and get a chance to meet all of our fantastic interns that we're going to be chatting with.
Yes, thanks, Chris. I am thrilled not only to partner with the WIS Social Podcast, but to share the amazing interns with the community. I know we've been sharing their content already this summer, but now we get to share a little bit more about each of the personalities that is joining us. So for those of you who don't know me, welcome. I am Jennifer Radke. I am the CEO of the National Institute for Social Media and OMCP. Really briefly, we started internship programs many times off and on over the last few years. But last year, 2024, we had kind of revamped the whole thing, and we allowed our interns to not only do work, but to learn along the way and hopefully earn their social media strategist certification. We had 4 interns last summer. It worked out really great. This year, we have 5 amazing young professionals joining us. They are doing more than just getting us coffee, right? They are absolutely managing content and understanding all of the ebbs and flows that go with social media strategy. And Chris, your point about today's session, running a little bit different with time is an example of some of those things we have to adapt to, right? So I am excited to introduce you all to the interns. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we'll get started with Alexis and get you introduced. So get to know these fantastic professionals, connect with them, and thank you, Chris, for doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jen.
Well, thank you, Chris, for having us today. To introduce myself, my name's Alexis. I'm originally from Kearney, Nebraska, and then I went to school at Cedarville University in Ohio and graduated in May of 2024. And then since then, I've been living in Columbus, Ohio, and doing some freelance marketing work.
Fantastic. I would love to get to know Cassandra a little bit more as well.
Sure. Good morning. Yes, my name is Cassandra Hultgren. I am a 2024 grad from Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. Currently, I'm based in Phoenix, Arizona. Since graduating, I've been working for Customers First Marketing and doing some work there, as well as I started my own publishing book company where I have a coloring book line called Cute Critters.
Fantastic. And we will definitely talk a little bit about that later in the show. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about yourself. Oh, let's make your mic. While we get that adjusted, I'm going to go right over on, and let's just go to Kassity to introduce yourself.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Chris. Hi, my name is Kassity Lee. I am a obviously summer intern with NISM, but I'm also a senior marketing and advertising double major at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Go Dogs. I do stuff in my free time beyond social media too.
Of course, and we all do, and I'm excited to learn more about that from all of you. I think we have Jennifer back, so let's go over to Jennifer.
So sorry about that. Hi, Chris. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for having us on today. We're super excited to do this. My name is Jennifer Reddy. I am originally from Texas. I currently reside in Kentucky. I am a senior at Southern New Hampshire University in my senior year studying communication and a new media concentration. Just quickly, I'm a mill spouse, super proud of that. And I enjoy spending time with family and volunteering.
Love it. And certainly last but not least, Liliana Marquez.
Hello, my name is Liliana. I usually go by Lily. I actually currently live in Kearney, Nebraska, which is where Alexis is from. We made that connection not too long ago. I am studying at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. I'm studying business administration with a minor in digital marketing. And yeah, I'm barely getting into this whole social media marketing thing. So I would say I'm the baby of the group.
No, and that is, look, we all start somewhere. And I'm gonna start with you, Liliana, actually, with this first question, and then we'll work our way back, because one thing I'm interested in learning from all of you, so get your thoughts ready on this one, is how did you become an intern with the National Institute for Social Media? What was your process of finding internships, and then ultimately, why choosing the National Institute for Social Media?
Yeah, so I would say I was in a point where I was kind of deciding what would be best for my education and my future career. And I got this opportunity. I actually received an email and they said, "Hey, I think you would be great for this." And I was like, "Hey, let's do it." So I applied. I can't remember exactly how the process went, but I know that I had to submit all my social media stuff. And then I had an interview and I really hit it off with Celeste and Jennifer. I love them. They were awesome. And then they had to submit some of our work. And I believe that was extra. That was not originally planned. And I later got a phone call saying, "Hey, we want you to be part of the team." And I was super excited. It was not really planned. I know that some people studying at UNK do have the requirement of having an internship, which was not the case for me. But I thought it would be probably the best thing for me. It looks great on a resume, and I wanted more hands-on experience. And so here I am now.
And we're definitely going to get a little bit into your digital marketing experience and what you've been studying a little bit later on. I want to go, though, over to you, Kassity, and find out a little bit about your journey to being an intern here today.
So I actually knew Jen Radke before learning about this internship. One of my professors at SIU had a series of speakers throughout our class. Jen had come to speak, and knowing Jen, she was like, "Please network with me on LinkedIn." So I connected with her. About a year later, I had asked her to do an interview with me for an assignment I had with someone in the field I was interested in. And so we had a lengthy conversation there. And it took about a year and a half of silently kind of stalking her socials before I really came around to getting really invested into like, hey, I think an NISM internship would be for me. Because I saw her reposting all the material from last summer's interns, and I was like, this seems like an environment that would be good for me. I had a background in sales, but I had some experience in sales. I was like, sales isn't really what I want to do with marketing. I want to explore social media and content creation. So it just felt like the stars had aligned for me there. And similar to Liliana's process, I had just done my application. I was really excited. I had a great conversation with Jen and Celeste, and I got the phone call too, and I'm really excited to be here. So
yeah, and Jen pointing out, by the way, that about her own experiences in speaking of college classes and networking with the young professionals such as folks like yourselves. So it's those college relationships open doors, and I'm so glad the National Institute for Social Media is out there doing that. Let's go to you, Jennifer. Tell us a little bit about your journey to being here today.
Hello. I actually have been following NISM for about a year and a half as well. And I actually got into social media through an opportunity through volunteering for a couple of ministries. I had no experience, but I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for it. I want to try something new. I ended up falling in love with social media. I love social media because it gives us such great platforms to communicate with each other, to different audiences, and communication is my passion. But I'm learning so much in this internship. To be honest, Jen and Celeste are some of the brightest people I've ever met. And it's just been a pleasure working with my colleagues and just learning as we go and watching us evolve in our journey in this internship.
Absolutely love it. And evolution, obviously a big part of social media. Change happens and we learn and we evolve because we have to. I mean, I was talking with some of you prior to us recording today just about the fact that we're dealing with changes to Meta literally every single day. So that is part of the gig. Let's go to you, Cassandra. Talk to me a little bit. I got to say, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff you do on the side in the future, which I'm sure connects to some of the interests on the social side. But what was it that drew you here to the National Institute for Social Media?
Sure. So, Chris, I'm sure you recognize my last name. My dad actually was on your
Yes.
podcast at an earlier
I do.
And so I found out about NISM through him. He's on the advisory board, and I do have my own small business. And I thought it would be a perfect opportunity. As Jen said, this is the first summer or second summer that they are letting the interns take the SMS course alongside of creating content for NISM.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be, just a fantastic way to learn the skills hands-on as far as how to kind of grow my own social media and any future social media that I might do for any kind of business. And then also work for that certification myself. So worked out with my summer, and I'm super excited to have done what we've done so far and all that we're going to continue to do.
Fantastic. And certainly lots to learn, to say the least. Alexis, I want to learn a little bit about as well with this journey. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper into social media and some of the best practices that you've been picking up and why they're important. So first and foremost, tell me a little bit about joining the Institute and, what it's been like for you so far.
Yeah, it's also been a really good experience so far. I originally found the internship because someone sent the application to me and was like, oh, you might be interested in this. I do marketing freelance work. So I just finished a project and it was like perfect timing and perfect fit into my schedule. And so I was like, oh, this looks like something I would really enjoy. I really liked the ability to create content while also learning and then studying for the SMS exam alongside it and pairing those two things together. So then I applied and ended up getting it, which was super exciting.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful value proposition when you can both create content and get a cert in the process. And I'll be talking a little bit about certs later on, I know, at some point in this conversation, but let me stick with you for a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about why and in particular social media best practices and all these things are so important for us in 2025, because again, there is it's a misnomer that you're young, you can do social by default. It's this thing, and it's again, some of these things are based in semi-truths, right? But that said, these best practices that you get to take away from an internship like this, talk me through what you've been taking away and why that is so important.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I've learned a lot about there's so much content being posted on social media, and with what you said, everyone feels like they can do it just because they can post something, and not having a strategy behind it is just noise, and it usually doesn't get the results that you're wanting. And so I think a lot of what I'm learning through this internship is just having a strategy and having your content support that strategy and all align with one purpose and goal.
Absolutely. And Cassandra, I'm wondering what your experience has been with these same best practices, because I can imagine you've been putting some of those to work with some of the things you were already doing. But, how has this opportunity maybe reinforced some of those things? What have you been taking away from what you've been learning?
Sure. So I think kind of building off of what Alexis said, there's a lot out there, right? And so I think that people will assume that they should jump on all the trends in order to be seen as a brand. And that's not necessarily all that you need to do, right? Like it is important to be aware of trends and occasionally jump on them, but ultimately it's staying consistent with what you're posting as a brand and making sure that you have a consistent voice and that from platform to platform, what you're putting out there, if people click on one thing, they're not going to be expecting something else when they come to your page. And so I think it's been great to get that experience with NISM and just being very consistent with creating content in their brand voice. And yeah, for sure, I'm going to apply that to my own socials.
Let's keep this trend going. Jennifer, talk to me a little bit about these social media best practices and the things that you've been picking up, and why is that so important, especially here in 2025 when social media is everywhere and it's overwhelming at times?
I completely agree. It's rather overwhelming. There's so much information out there. There's so many platforms these days. I think that social media best practices really set you up to be successful at getting your message across to different audiences, but at the same time, like meeting all your goals. And the best practices are so important. Also, just staying on top of how social media is changing, even on a day-to-day basis. And with that said, your strategy might change, the best practices might change. And I think that's just a real testament that shows how fast technology is evolving, how fast communication is evolving, and just how beneficial it can be to personal brands, businesses, and organizations.
Yeah. And Kassity, I know you will get into a little bit later on that you've had a few internship experiences thus far. But I'm intrigued what this experience has been like in terms of just taking in those best practices and how important they've been to you thus far.
Yeah, so what I really enjoyed about this internship is, for me, it's really compounded on what I've been learning in my education at school.
Yeah.
And so you can hear about these best practices and you can be told over and over what you should be doing, but it's really putting them into practice and getting that hands-on experience that really solidifies the value in that. And I think that's one of the strongest points of the NISM internship. For me, a brand is an entity almost like a person. And so every connection on social media is almost a person-to-person value, even if you are a brand entity connecting with your audience. And so you want it to be real and authentic because it, in a sense, feels human. And by following those best practices, you are creating that brand person that you want the world to see. So
Love it. And it is true, especially because you're not building a brand. I have always talked about digital identity and this idea that when we are searched online, we ourselves are a brand. It's there's a reason personal brand has been such a buzzword for many, many, many years. But thinking about the entity in that way, I think is equally important. Let's go over to you, Liliana, and I want to hear again, same question. What is it about best practices? Getting hands-on really seems to be at the forefront for all of you. What's so important about that here in 2025?
Yeah, like how Kassity said, it was really taking all these terms that I'm seeing in the classroom and actually really putting it to work and seeing how they actually do affect our social media. Social media has turned into more about posting strategically, not just posting every day, because you can post many, many videos in a single day and not get any views. It comes down to your target audience, knowing how that changes from platform to platform, which is one of the biggest things that I have learned. How I should be actually posting with value and thinking about how we are supposed to be giving to our audience, not just trying to constantly sell to them.
Yeah, and let's stay on that topic. What is the most important lesson that maybe you've taken away about social media? Where's that area of growth for you where you had kind of that aha moment of, wow, I didn't think about this in this way?
Did you say Jen?
I would say
Okay.
sticking with let's stick with Liliana. We'll work our way right back just to
Okay.
make it easy for everyone.
Our aha moment is what you said?
Yeah, your aha moment was social.
Oh goodness. I would have to say that when I first started off, I was second guessing myself in a lot of things. I think we all did. The first week was really rough, I would say. It was just kind of like, I think Jen said drinking out of a fire hose. And so throughout this whole experience, I've had many, many, many aha moments. I don't think I could actually point to one because this is all very new to me. And so a lot of it is just a lot of new information alongside with what I've learned in the classroom. But I would have to say understanding the difference between all types of video content. Because to me, in the beginning, Reels and TikToks were very similar. And funny enough, they're not. So I think that would have to be, and just actually video creation. I think I've had a lot of fun creating videos, which is something that I've never really done. So I think I'm kind of dipping my toes in that.
Absolutely love it. Let's go back to you, Kassity, and again, same general line of questioning here. What's been kind of that thing that's really stood out that you've learned about social media, in this time?
Yeah, so I feel like we all hear the term like wearer of many hats, constantly wearing so many hats. Um, that has never rang truer than actually going through this internship and getting experience in all of the platforms that NISM posts content to. And beyond that, then learning the intricacies in the SMS course, the bigger picture strategy. There is so much a social media marketing manager has to take care of in their day to day. I don't know how Celeste does it actually, but I guess my favorite hat would also be video content. I feel like it would look like a GoPro headset if we're gonna choose hat types. So
Oh, I love it. And it's true. One of the things and I laugh because I've been doing this now since I always age myself by saying I've OG social in terms of before it was a job. And the wearing many hats has been the state of social media since then. It has not changed. So as much as has changed in social, that has not changed. So I'm so glad that you use that terminology of wearing many hats. Jennifer, what's your experience been? What's that kind of piece that stands out to you about social media and in terms of most important lessons maybe you've learned about how to do it, or just, again, aha moments?
So when I started this internship, I had no idea what I was in for. I remember that first day I think we were all a little overwhelmed, but I was excited because I knew this was going to be a challenging internship, and it has taught me a lot about that there's just more to social media than just posting every day. There's so much behind the scenes that people don't know, and they sometimes people say, "Oh, so you post pictures and reels? That's great," but that's not the case. I think one of my big aha moments was just to keep the audience in the forefront, because that's who we are really creating content for. That's who we are wanting to connect with. And that's just super important to keep in mind in the midst of being in the middle of this technology boom, with AI and everything. But just my aha moment was just keeping our audiences in the forefront. That's the most important thing, lesson that I learned.
There are people I know who've been in the industry for 10 years who I feel like don't know that lesson. So that is fantastic to hear. And Cassandra, wondering again, same kind of question here. What's that aha moment for you? What's the thing that stood out in terms of that social media lesson that just resonates?
So for me, it was most impactful. It's kind of the unit that we're all studying right now, but compliance and governance, and making sure that you are adhering to whatever the regulations or laws are regarding social media posting. I think it's something that creators aren't always aware of. And as a social media manager, you need to be really on top of what you should be doing, or not doing in some cases, such as we've talked a lot about not using someone's likeness to promote a brand without their permission. That's illegal. And I don't think that everyone knows that. So yeah, it's been really interesting to learn more about that and how it even varies by industry or by business, like if there are additional regulations that you need to be paying attention to. So that's been really big for me.
And it's very interesting you mentioned that. As someone who's had a chance to work in the help industry, I can just tell you, work in the help industry if you can, even for a little bit of time, and you will understand regulations at a much deeper level than you could ever imagine, because you'll be forced to. You don't have a choice. We're going to go back to you, Alexis, to wrap up this particular question, which is, again, what is that most important lesson, aha moment, thing that stands out for you?
I think for me, it's just the idea that you're never done learning, and like social media is constantly changing. And it's been very helpful to have like resources that Jen and Celeste have provided to us of like, hey, check out these things regularly to make sure you're staying up to date with like what's current. But also just like them helping us out with noticing different updates on like Instagram or different social media platforms. That's been like really helpful.
Yeah, no, that is definitely part of it. Ever changing is part of the job description. And one thing I want to change up here is I have some individual questions for each of you, one for each of you, just because you are all very unique individuals with very different backgrounds. And I cannot wait to dig into that, because I think people need to hear more of your story. Before we do that, I do have to say, once again, thank you to the National Institute for Social Media, who empowers marketing professionals to elevate their social media expertise through industry-recognized certification. The National Institute for Social Media provides a comprehensive training program designed to build confidence, credibility, and credentials while fostering a global community of practice and collaboration among social media professionals. You are getting a great sense of that here. I think it's fair to say, if you are listening and or watching, depending in the format that you end up ultimately consuming this, this is a wonderful group that we're with, and I can't wait to dig into this. So I'm gonna go right back to Alexis, and I got to ask you. So you've obviously been busy, school, education, etc. But one of the things you also did was you, during your senior year at university, launched Real Marketing, and I would love to learn more about one, Real Marketing, but also the process of saying, I want to start something for myself, because that's a step that's hard for people to take sometimes, let alone when they're just wrapping up senior year of college.
Yeah, great question. So my senior year of college, signed up for this class, unsure of if it would lead anywhere. It's called Intro to Entrepreneurship. And it was just to get a foundational knowledge of like what entrepreneurship is, and like you got to take your own business and start making projects for it. So I got to create content in that class and to learn from someone that did start his own business. And it was really helpful to learn from him, but also to like see the benefits of owning your own business. And I really was inspired by that. And so I started it, and I was like, what better time than now? I'm in school. I can do some projects and small things on the side and get a feel for it. And then I ended up really liking doing that and really enjoying the projects. So once I graduated, I just started taking on more clients and doing a variety of different projects. But since then, I've still been doing it since 2024 in February.
That's fantastic. I congratulate you, because again, not an easy step. And along the same vein, I'm actually going to go over to Cassandra, because in October of 2024, you you were both doing some cool things here in late 2024. You actually started something called Stop and Smile Publishing, and I want to hear more about this. You kind of spoke a little about it earlier, but I definitely want you to share a little bit more about this. It sounds like something that does bring smiles to people's faces. I know it involves coloring books. Let's let you tell that story, though, because I definitely want people to hear it from you.
Sure, yeah. So Stop and Smile Publishing is actually play on my last name, Stop and Smile Hultgren. But I came up with the idea sort of during COVID, just seeing how everyone was turning to the arts in order to take care of their mental health. And I think that coloring is a very accessible way for people to tap into that. And so my coloring books are, the line is called Cute Critters, and it's designed to be relevant for all ages. It's cute for children, but then also detailed enough that adults can enjoy it and really take advantage of that like meditative state of coloring. And so, yeah, it's been really great to, like Alexis said, kind of start this entrepreneur path and learn about business and starting an LLC and taking my creative endeavors and learning how to self-publish and do that. And so, yeah, it's been really great to see how people have been responding to the coloring books, and I get a ton of pictures of how people have designed them, and that's super, super cool to see what direction they take it in. So yeah, if anyone is interested, the easiest way to find that is through my website, CassandraHultgren.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to jump over to you, Jennifer. I noticed you have this very deep educational background. You've got definitely a focus where you have gotten multiple certifications, and incredibly impressive. I would love to learn, though, more about something you talked about earlier, which is, it's very clear to me you have a passion for communication practices, and I want to learn more about this. Where's that passion come from? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So my passion for communication actually sprouted from a necessity. I, alongside with my twin sister, we grew up being caregivers to our brother. His name is David. He does have cerebral palsy and also epilepsy. So being just a caregiver, you have to be a really good communicator so that everyone knows what's going on medically, emotionally. So also, in a different direction, my passion for communication actually came from conflict management. My initial major was peace studies at Kent State University, and I quickly found that communication really went hand in hand with conflict management. And I'm fascinated with communication these days, especially social media, because we have actually the luxury of having to talk to people from across the world anytime we want on any platform. And I really don't take that luxury lightly. It really is a gift to us. And that's where really how my passions for communication grew from. And I've also applied that passion to being a caregiver to my husband. He is an Army veteran, and along through his healing journey with PTSD, I have found that clear communication was very, very important to not only our relationship, but also with his healing along the way. So sorry for that long answer.
No, I thank you for sharing. And I mean, I have a great appreciation. I have a daughter who has epilepsy, and I understand deeply how much in that regard you do need to be mindful, and there's certain things you have to do. So I have a deep respect for the caregiving aspect and how that communication comes into play. So thank you so much for sharing the full story there. And again, I want to note, if people go ahead, the profiles for everyone will be are on LinkedIn already if you're in these events, but also on the show notes. I'm going to encourage everyone to go check and see the impressive already existing resumes that all these individuals have. Let me move over to you, Kassity, because one thing I've already mentioned a few times is it seems like you've had a few internship opportunities so far, which I think is a wonderful thing. You've had a chance to explore, learn different things. So I'm really intrigued that as a growing professional, what advice you would give to other young professionals who are maybe looking to have more opportunities to experience internships or gain different experiences, because it seems like you're on a good path on that already.
Yeah, so the internship that Chris may be alluding to is actually with Hormel, which you may know for spam. That was an incredible and wild journey of me walking into my college's career fair and within a month and a half getting a job that moved me 1,000 miles away from home for 3 months. But, you know, in my opinion, the best way to go about securing an internship for yourself is truly to network. I myself am a bit of an introvert, so I know that sounds terrifying, but I promise you it's worth it. That's why I'm here, is because of networking with Jen. Even going to those career fairs, if they are available to you, is incredibly important, and being willing to talk to the recruiters there. You just really need to be willing to open yourself up to the experience. I can't say any of these internships just kind of fell into my lap. You really need to kind of go out there, put yourself out there, and those who are worth it will see that time and value. And I guess if I had one piece of general advice for those who are in an internship, is to kind of adopt this yes man mentality. If you can say yes, I think you should. It really gives you a whole host of experiences you would have never anticipated. Going back to my internship with Hormel, I served breakfast sausage to like 200 Army people on a base the second day of my internship there at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Would have never thought I would have done that, but I just said yes. And it's been that way for most of my internships, and it's just opened me up to so many experiences. So take advantage of those weird little moments and use them to your advantage, because truthfully, no, I can't say I want to go into food service sales long term, but that did set me up to eventually get here. And being that diverse really is beneficial to a person. So long answer, but just say yes.
There, everything is part of a bigger journey, and I love that you had a different experience, and really those experiences, in my view, this internship that you have right now and anything else you're going to do, they all open potential doors. And I'm glad you mentioned the networking, and all of you have been talking about this, but those networks are huge. Don't burn bridges is one of the best pieces of advice anyone ever gave me. Liliana, I want to go over to you. You are studying, I know, business administration, but I noticed you had the minor in digital marketing. I'm intrigued because a lot of people, I think the majority of people don't do the minor, right? So I think there's a certain intangible that exists with the person who wants to pick up the minor. When you looked at it and said, I want to do this minor in digital media, what comes into play there, and why in particular digital marketing, I should say?
Yeah, so long story, try to make it short. This all happened because of a series of events, I would say, starting in high school. In my junior year, I started yearbook, which was something that I had never really expected to do. And there, I really found my love for photography. And then from there, I started working at our local newspaper. And then I started working with them, writing articles, taking pictures. And then I got the great opportunity to work at the city office. And there I worked with the city administrator. And he really gave me a lot of options and opportunities to kind of mess with whatever I wanted to do. Since I was an office assistant, I filed papers. I worked on their website, which really hadn't been updated. And that's where I was like, oh, well, this is cool. I like design. I like getting to do this. And so I actually finished a year of college in high school before graduating. So from there, I went to a community college and I finished in a year. And that was basically all I had planned for my life. And it came a lot faster than expected. And so, as a first generation student, I really had never thought about going to a university. It was really never part of my lifestyle. And so I was kind of stuck being 19 years old saying, what do I do with my life? I don't want to go back home and work at a grocery store. And so I ended up coming to Kearney. And I actually started off with an emphasis in marketing. And so I started off with my marketing classes, and they seemed a little too broad for me, I would say. And then we got to this section in my marketing class, and that's when we started focusing on digital marketing. I was like, hey, I kind of like this. And I mean, being 20 years old, I grew up with social media already kind of booming. So it's always been a part of my life. I can tell how much it actually is affecting us in a good way in the daily, I guess. So then, not too long ago, actually, is when I sat down with my advisor and I was like, hey, would this affect anything if I switched? And she said, no, go ahead. And I was like, awesome. So I really like it because it's going to allow me to focus more on this digital side. And I guess marketing overall just felt a little too broad for me. I like the aspect of social media. I liked how we are able to share ourselves and our lives on social media, and especially with a business, and how we are able to paint them however we would like to in order for our audience to, kind of connect with us. Also, long answer, sorry.
No, these are none of these are too long. They are all, again, a big thing to me is you all have these great individual stories. One of the things that I like, I just as an example, you talk about social media telling a full story. I had it in my notes just as an example, like in particular, I'm trying to find it now, of course, because I closed out one of the pieces of my notes, but like as an example, I think it was Kassity. I one of you had collected like coffee mugs, right? So like it was Kassity, right? So like things like that, like these are the little stories that I think make us all unique, right? And you've all talked a little bit about that brand side of things and who are we? Well, these are all the pieces that you don't know who's got that same connection. So I appreciate you all going into depth on this stuff. One of the things I do want to point out for everyone, just as a heads up, this is obviously a live stream that we are doing from the National Institute for Social Media's LinkedIn page. It will be put out in audio as well, so people will be able to be listened back, though I do encourage, if you've missed anything, tune in. I saw Wendy saying she joined late, but by the way, loving how diverse the group was and want to learn more from all of you. So again, you are all providing great value, and I thank you all for being here with me. But this is Why I Social, and on Why I Social, one of the things that I have great pleasure in doing with every single episode is 5 favorites. There are 5 of you, so I'm not going to ask you 5 individual questions, but I'm going to ask you the most important question, in my opinion, but I ask every single guest on the show. And that is, what is your favorite social network? I'm going to go in the order just as I see everyone, and I'll kind of ping you here. But keep in mind, one of the things that excites me about this, just so you know, is very often I'm talking to folks who've been in the industry 10, 15 years, very different perspectives. You offer a very unique perspective, so I cannot wait to hear what all of your favorite platforms are, and maybe some of them will surprise people as they're listening. So I'm gonna start with you, Cassandra, and then we'll work our way over, and then to Liliana, to Jennifer, to Alexis, and then to Kassity. So starting with you, Cassandra, what is your favorite social network?
My favorite social network is Instagram. I have had the opportunity to live in many different states and countries and have friends from all over the world, walks of life, and I feel like that is where they're most active. And so in order to keep up to date with all of my connections, that's where I like to be. I like to see who's getting engaged and, who's graduated, and all that fun stuff is on Instagram for me. So that's where I like to be.
Awesome. And I want to point out what I think is always really interesting with this is, yes, we're talking about professionalism of social media. Yes, that's obviously part of a topic, but it's the personal things that tend to stand out when I come to this question every single time. And you've kind of proven that point just with the fact that it does come down to that ultimately that's a big why we do this, right? Because we are building connections. Liliana, for you, what is your favorite social network?
I would have to say probably the smart answer would be like LinkedIn or something, but I would be lying if I said that. Honestly, TikTok. I could spend hours on TikTok. I go down rabbit holes and it's my Google at this point. I research stuff on there. I find workouts, I find recipes, I find everything. I love TikTok.
There's nothing wrong with that. And again, to that point, I will be, there is no quote unquote smart answer as in my view, because we all have a preference for a reason. And you are talking something incredibly important, which is social as a search engine in itself. So we could talk about that with AI is obviously powerful search engine these days, but social is an incredibly powerful search engine too. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Jennifer, what is your favorite social network?
My favorite social media network is actually LinkedIn. For a few reasons. I have found many opportunities to connect with people. There's no way I would have met them on other platforms. I also found this internship opportunity on LinkedIn itself, so that was really a plus for me. I actually have also met some people at the Allergy and Asthma Network. I've been doing some contract work with them, and surprisingly, I have found community with this nonprofit organization. So just being able to network. Also, I'm a little bit obsessed about professional development. I'm always on this journey of, learning, growing, and improving skills that I already have.
Love it. And LinkedIn is obviously incredibly impactful. So glad to hear LinkedIn getting a mention here. We're going to go over to you, Alexis. And the question is the same. What is your favorite social network?
I think for me, it's close between Instagram and LinkedIn, which is probably surprising because they're very different. But I think I like the two different atmospheres they provide, I guess. I think if I had to choose one, it would be Instagram. I like the creativity and the images. It's emphasis on images and videos. And I like that from a professional standpoint. You can be more authentic on Instagram, but I also think that I probably prefer it more because I spend a lot of time there. So I understand the audience that's on Instagram well too.
Awesome. And I will say, I think for a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for all of the older millennials, but we obviously, I feel like it's easy to assume. It's easy to assume that, if you're say under 30, your favorite network would be TikTok. So again, it's a false assumption, right? So it's wonderful to hear the variety here. But that's why I say it might surprise some people when they hear all these things. Last, certainly not least, Kassity, what is your favorite social network?
I was this close to getting a name wheel and just having it pick for me because I just love so much of social media. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Discord because I play a lot of video games and that's where I interact with my friends the most. But if I'm picking my favorite social media platform, it's definitely TikTok. There's just an energy that I think is very unique to the platform. I don't want to say chaotic, but there is something less buttoned up than, say, your LinkedIn there. And like Lily, I could spend ungodly amount of time in TikTok, workouts, recipes, asking it what the best thing is for my hair. It's so easy to get lost in there. But yeah, TikTok's my favorite, and I'm going to plug my own LinkedIn. It's not my favorite platform, but I'll always get back to you if you DM me. So
I love it. And look, I'm going to take this time to say thank you to all of you. One, I want to stress it is not easy, in my view, to just come on and talk live to anyone. It's easy to assume that it's easy, but it's not. So one, thank you for that. Secondly, I really appreciate the energy that you have brought today. It's, again, I think people have learned a lot from you in all of your answers. So I'm really grateful to you for being here with me. The WIS Social podcast, as I mentioned, is sponsored by the National Institute for Social Media, but I'm so glad that we were able to bring this through the National Institute for Social Media's pages. And I'm glad you could get to be a part of that program. So thank you for sharing your experiences with that and internships as a whole. I'm going to personally also extend my best to all of you in all of your future endeavors, whatever they may be. And I know that this internship experience will make you better across the board for all of those. So I thank you for that. I'm going to heavily encourage again go check out these wonderful folks and all the things that they are doing. As you've heard, they're doing some really cool things. They have very unique stories, and there's so much more we could discuss that we just don't have the time for, unfortunately. But that said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in and being a part of the Why Social podcast here today. Encourage you to go back and watch a rewatch of this if you didn't catch the whole thing. And we will have some sort of edited version of this, just so you know, on the Why Social podcast. You can find us on Spotify and across the board. Please make sure you go and subscribe to the podcast. As for the format, whether it's the whole thing or individually breaking up everyone's, I'm not there yet. And what I want to do, I want to go back and listen, but you will get to hear everyone's story there. And Joe is correct. By the way, I'm going to bring this right up on the screen. You are definitely all stars. And so thank you for being with me. With that, I'm going to say thank you to everyone for joining. This has been the Why I Social podcast, and I will see you all very soon. Again, Why Social podcast drops every 2 weeks. Normally, this was a special occasion dropping in the middle of the week, but every 2 weeks on Monday. So I will hope you will go join and follow the podcast. With that, have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome to the Why I Social podcast, the show that brings you